Hello humans, Master DinnerFlax here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I'm going to be taking a final analysis at Lair of Darkness. Now, for those of you who have probably played the deck, you know that it wasn't enough. The deck has a really awesome play style. It's very unique, it's new, it's something that the Yu-Gi-Oh community has kind of been looking for. A new play style that isn't just build a board or break a board. It's very different. Yu-Gi-Oh has been lacking a control deck for I think a while now. Ever since like Zoo. Early Zoo, not even late Zoo. So like this was something that got everyone excited, but the problem was they didn't build the deck. They didn't build the cards correctly. I'm gonna take a look at every card that they printed, so all the new ones. Darkest Diablos has no flaws. It is an awesome boss monster, easy to summon, with a very unique effect that is quite literally rare and very incredible. Hand control is one of the rarest and most powerful form of effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! So that effect is quite impressive. It's also a homage to the original Diablos, which was one of my favorite cards when I was a kid. So that's really cool. And yeah, so it's also just got very good immunities too. They pretty much have to Borreload or Regeki it. And in and of itself, it just comes back so easily. So that doesn't really hurt you. So Diablos, to me, has no flaws. Because for the deck it's perfect. I'm going to go into the flaws soon. Arima, I also believe, it only has one flaw, but I think it would be unfair if it didn't have this flaw. It's the fact that it's only a target for one virus, and it happens to be the worst virus, Grinning Grave. Otherwise, it has no flaws. It either searches Lair of Darkness, or it tributes a dark to draw a card or search 2,000 more defense dark, and if it's Diablos, you summon it. This is a very good going second card, unless you have a body. Then it's a fantastic going first card. Like, this card is much better at going second than it is going at first. So, very, very good. I think this card doesn't have any flaws. I think this was perfectly well made. Now, here's where the issues start. Lilith has... So, if you're just looking at Lilith, it has no flaws. Not only does it not have flaws, if it was printed in any other era in Yu-Gi-Oh!, this card would be limited or banned. Because that is an unbelievable effect. The fact that you can resource your deck for any normal trap card in the game that is legal is absurd. Like, even if you're not guaranteed it, it doesn't matter. The fact that you get to search any trap card in the game and set up any form of defense would be unfair, like, in any other era in Yu-Gi-Oh! But the problem with this card is it's not very good at going second. Like, Arima, the difference between Arima is even when you're going second with Lair, even if you just tribute to draw, you're getting a fresh card that you guarantee you can help disrupt someone's board. While Lilith, yes, it does disrupt the board, but the only thing you can get are trap cards, and trap cards are much less powerful when your opponent knows they are there. So that's the first problem. The second problem is Lilith, so it's not really her fault, but it's the strategy that is set up that's really, really hard to justify. And I'll go into that soon. But Lilith, the main flaw is that you only want to open her going first. And otherwise, she's just really mediocre. And the cards she searches are very slow, and they have no utility for you. They're only utility for against your opponent. And because of that, that's kind of a flaw in this card, is that there's nothing you're getting that's going to enhance you. And that's the main problem with this card. And I'll address that. I'll also go and address that later. Last one is Duke Shade. I think this card was an awful idea. So the whole point of the other two being good is that they can tribute themselves or just anything else. This one has to tribute a dark monster. And not only that, but it has restrictions for kind of like no reason. So yes, you can kaiju your opponent and then get back a thing, like depending on what engine you're playing. But the problem is that it restricts you, and in addition to restricting you, it doesn't tribute itself, which is one of the most important things about these cards, is that they can tribute themselves when it's a very early game. So this is only has value going second, and it doesn't have a very high utility going second. So I think it's kind of just meh. Like, it's good sometimes, but really it just doesn't have any value. This was the worst monster they made. Its flaws are all over the place, while Lilith are kind of hidden flaws. This card just has so many issues, and it's just not good. Then we got Lair of Darkness. So its main issue is very simple. It does absolutely nothing in multiples, and it does absolutely nothing unless you have a tributor. That's its main flaws. But that's not the flaws of the card, that's the flaws of its deck. The problem is you do not have enough bodies to tribute. You are literally, everyone I've talked to who has played this deck, they've all come to the same conclusion that this deck is literally missing a monster. This deck is missing another 3 of, because you don't have enough. You literally don't have enough bodies. So I think when everyone's coming to the same conclusion that you don't have enough new monsters, then that should kind of speak out about the main flaw of this deck. And the main flaw is you don't have enough tributors. So yeah, now let's get into my main problem with this deck. The playstyle that they promoted is about using really powerful side deck cards in your main deck. Now, here's where the problems start. So, viruses, unless you're talking about the original Crush Card virus 10 years ago, they were all side deck options. And sometimes just not even played. Like Deck Devi, it was played a little bit back in the day, but it eventually fell out of favor. These cards, all they are, they're just side deck options. You don't wanna gamble 2 of your own cards to hit 1 or nothing out of your opponent's hand. Then you lose. And you're basing that off of complete variance. You're not even guaranteeing that happens. And by the time you get to the viruses that will hit your opponent no matter what, like Full Force, not as guaranteed, but you're gonna end up hitting something. Or Eradicator, where you're almost guaranteed to hit 2, maybe 3. The problem with them is, why are you playing viruses in a deck that doesn't even keep monsters on board? Like, these ones, they tribute themselves. So, in order to use the virus, you have to have a tributor, Diablos, and the virus. So that's a huge, huge flaw. So you have to have a 3-card hand to spend 2 cards to hope that your opponent automatically loses. I hope you see a problem with this. Viruses have the fundamental flaw that so viruses are just side deck cards. They've always been side deck cards outside of the original Crush card. So what is causing why would you promote this strategy and not even give us the correct tools to promote this strategy? Because if you look at a structure deck, it's not full of dark monsters that special summon themselves. It's full of like big dark monsters that need a tribute summon, like Vanity's Fiend, Mega Caius, Archfiend, First Lord of Horror. They're not cards that special summon themselves. they're not like malicious or Jester Confit, where they just put themselves on the field so your Arima or Lilith are just free. No, it doesn't promote that. It promotes the exact opposite. So, think about this. If I'm going to have a virus ready, I need the bodies. I actually need the cards that let me play the viruses. And the strategy itself doesn't promote that, but not only does it not promote it, even if it does promote it, there's not even a guarantee that you're actually hurting your opponent that much, if at all. So, that's the big flaw. And then finally, the newest virus they printed is an absolute shit show. This is one of the worst cards you could have made as a virus. So, the fact that it can just not hit anything out of your opponent's hand means that if you have Lair in this, you're only paying a 1-for-1, which is cute, but you're giving them setup. Sure, they can't use them this turn, but your deck isn't fast. Your deck isn't fast. It's not going to promote. It's not going to try to OTK while those cards aren't working, because this deck takes like 6 or 7 turns to get a kill in. So, by that time, they have probably used those cards. And what's even more upsetting is the main point of a virus is that you get to look at your opponent's hand, and it disrupts the hand. It infects them. But this one doesn't do that. It lets them Foolish Burial whatever the fuck they want, and this is just bad. This is a bad virus. It may be the easiest to activate under Lair, but don't bother with this card. This has so many flaws, and it's just like, they made it, not only did they not just make it fair, but they kind of just made it better for your opponent than it would ever be for you. So, this is not what a new virus needed to be. And then, so, those are my explanations. The flaws of this deck are two things. The two major things. They need another body. They need another name that just tributes itself. And I've thought about it, and they need one specifically that does this. They need a tributor that says, you can tribute one dark monster, special summon one dark fiend with 0 defense from your deck. It needs to be that almost exactly, or almost very similar to that. Because, like I said with Lilith, it's only good going first, while it's very bad going second, and Arima is good going second, but not as much going first. What this card allows you to do is, it says, oh, I'm going first? Oh, okay, so I can do this. Oh, I'm going second? Okay, so I can do this. But when you have just two of them that contradict this, you're literally just hoping. You're at the mercy of what you draw to see how you should play, and you don't get to decide to go first or second once you see your hand. You decide beforehand. So you're literally just at the mercy of what you draw. And with that card, you're not. You actually get to play your deck the way it was intended, either or. So they need a body that specifically lone fires Fiend with 0 defense, because you can't like name an archetype, because these guys aren't an archetype. They're just a series of cards. And the second thing is, for the love of God, if you want people to play viruses, you should change what a virus does specifically for this deck. Because viruses, so the problem with the viruses, another problem with the viruses is they don't help you. They don't help you in any way. They just hurt your opponent. So what you need to make, the second card you need to make a virus that has whatever virus effect, not very good. Make it specific to this play style of deck. So make it say tribute one Fiend with 0 defense or one Diablos monster. Make it say that. And then have it do whatever virus effect. But then here's what it needs to do. It needs to say something like, you can banish this from your graveyard to add a Fiend with 0 defense, or banish this from your graveyard to special summon a Fiend with 0 defense out of your graveyard. The viruses need to do something that isn't just being a virus. for you to promote this virus playstyle, because the viruses, they're cool and all, but if you're trying to promote a playstyle, you can't just hope they do something, because if you give them that utility, like I stated earlier, this allows the virus to, even if it didn't hit anything or just hit one thing, it doesn't actually matter, because you still get the utility of it in the graveyard, which is super important. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this much longer video. I just wanted to state that Lair of Darkness, people were very excited for, but when it came out, it wasn't finished. It actually feels like it's not a finished deck. It feels like, I want to say it feels like Vendread, the very first series of Vendread or FAs. This is quite literally not finished. There's not a play style here that works, and it needs like 2 to 3 more cards to get functional and fun. And this is that same kind of thing. You feel like this deck wasn't finished. They're down 2 to 3 cards, and I really want, and I know a lot of other people do too, I really want to see this deck fleshed out to a real powerful play style. Not only because I actually have an attachment to Diablos because it was one of my favorite cards as a kid, but actually because this is a playstyle we haven't seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Before, and Control has been so outdated that it really needs a comeback in Yu-Gi-Oh! Turns need to come back. And I want to see this really fleshed out. I want to see a Lone Fire for your deck, for this deck, and I want to see a virus that does something besides be a virus. Those are the 2 things this deck needs. It needs a Lone Fire for the Fiends with 0 defense, and it needs a virus that does something in the graveyard besides just be a virus. As soon as those 2 are done, you are going to be looking at a plausible, playable deck. Will it be top tier? Probably not still, because it still has many flaws, but the difference is the deck will be playable, because as it is right now, I barely consider this playable. I would be very ashamed to tell someone this is a really good, fun, solid deck, because the truth is, no matter what you mash it with, even with Infernoids, it always feels like it's holding itself back, because Lilith and Arima, oh shit. So Lilith and Arima are 2 based on which turn it is, but if you give them that Lone Fire, it doesn't matter which turn it is, because you get to both. And the viruses need to be more than just viruses, as I said earlier, because promoting using side deck cards in the main deck is just a dumb idea. But if they do something, well, maybe not so much. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And remember, Master DinnerFlax will take your soul.